Hi everybody, and welcome to my review of the Seiko SRP637 Prospex driver. This is a fairly new one from Seiko. All of us know and love Seiko divers, their quality, their value for the money, and this one is no different. It's a fairly modest price of an MSRP of $575 US, but can be found considerably cheaper. I got this one on sale in Japan here for about USD 350. It is a very high quality watch for the money. Those familiar with Seiko divers, and particularly ones similar to this series, such as the Monster or the Baby Tunas, will recognize some of the quality characteristics in those models. The shroud on this one, unlike previous models, is stainless steel. It's no longer plastic. Has the nice rivets in there. Has a very nicely integrated look. As you would expect on a Shroud or Monster type diver from Seiko, the lugs themselves are fairly short, so it provides a nice fit on the wrist, not too much overhang, while the case itself is 47 millimeters in diameter at the widest points without the crown. It does not sit all that big on the wrist. It does have some very strong wrist presence, but it is not overwhelming or too chunky. The dial itself, typical Seiko, very high quality, similar mostly to, I think, probably to the older Monster series with the rectangular markers and the numerals to designate the minutes. There's a little bit of extra inscription on the bottom in this series with the X for Prospex. That's a new thing Seiko has been doing. Divers 200 meters, of course. Divers mean it has met the ISO ratings to be a diver. The crown is at 4 o'clock, as is found on these models typically, and is screwed down, of course. The bracelet is very, very similar to the bracelet on my earlier Monster series. I think many viewers have these kind of Monster Seikos in their collection. It goes right up into the case with a solid end-link design, very sturdy, very high quality for the money, very smooth feel to it, doesn't need any work. It does have the notorious Seiko pin and collar system, which can be a bit of a pain for some people who aren't used to it, but once you do, adjusting the watch is not so much of a trouble. The clasp is the typical Seiko flip clasp, with a double lock on the side for extra security. Stamped steel, of course, but I mean, again, we're talking about $400 average street price, so I really can't complain about that at all. Very secure clasp. Never had a problem with any Seiko diver clasp whatsoever. The loom is, of course, quite outstanding. I don't think I have to show that in the video, but I might put it in at the end. It is bluish green, a bit more bluish than the older Monster series, but nothing out of the ordinary for Seiko divers. It is very thick and well applied. Quality overall of application of the loom and evenness is typical high quality Seiko standards. The bezel is a very typical Monster bezel with a very, very tight, very firm clicks. Even harder to move with these gloves on, but I suppose I prefer a bezel that is more difficult to turn than more easy, considering that you want it to be where you left it should it get bumped about at all. This is the new Seiko 4R series movement, so that's a bit of an upgrade to the 7S as found in Monsters. The old series Monsters, not the new series. The new series does use the 4R as well, similar to this. It is a hacking and hand winding movement. I can show you very quickly when we unscrew the crown, pull it out, the second hand does stop. That is your hacking, so you can synchronize it if you want to atomic clocks or whatnot, depending upon how type A you are about your timepieces. Myself, I do that once in a while, but don't get too crazy about it. That's a nice feature to have. The hand winding itself is, of course, nice to have because it's a good way to get them a good kickstart in the morning when you pull it out of your box and put it on your wrist. Speaking of putting it on your wrist, I'll give you a quick wrist shot of this, how it sits. Of course, I've adjusted it and worn it a few times already. It is a very nice watch. Sits again quite nicely on the wrist. Not too big, not too small. My wrist is about 7.5 inches or 19 centimeters. Not too big, not too small. Again, I think a little bigger than average. But the watch itself at 47 millimeters does not look overwhelming at all. It does not have that kind of pie plate appearance as some oversized watches have these days. I think Seiko, being Seiko, we'll play around a little bit with design, but not get too crazy. And we can see that here, that they do have the playful elements of the kind of monster boldness with the shroud element, giving it a little more character, but still keeping it quite utilitarian and somewhat sophisticated looking at the same time. It does not look like some kind of hacked up design like I'm familiar with brands like Invicta or something. It is traditional Seiko diver character. That may not suit all people, of course, but myself, I am a big fan of Seiko watches, and consider them some of my favorites, even amongst a collection that has several different makers, some Swiss that I will be probably reviewing later. Again, nice quality clasp, double lock system, slides off. So we can see this is, as I said, kind of a hybrid of a monster series and a tuna series. And for me, that really brings together two nice design elements in one watch that kind of ticks a lot of boxes. Quality itself, again, very high. New hacking and hand winding movement, crazy good lume. A little bit wider bracelet than on the monsters at 22 millimeters instead of 20. So should you want to change it out for a NATO strap or something, or even leather or rubber, you can do that quite easily. I always found the 20 millimeter a bit of a constraint on the old monster, because while the metal bracelet does suit it with a slight flare out at the sides here, if you replace it with a smaller 20 millimeter strap, it does tend to look a little bit top heavy. But I think this with the 22 is a little more balanced, just in my opinion. Again, quickly looking at the quality on this, the mix of brushed and polished surfaces. Again, impeccable Seiko quality, regardless of the money. Very, very nicely done, and for the money, well, you're really not going to be able to find a better deal than something like this. Again, I think it's a fantastic value. I'm proud to have added to my collection. I'll be reviewing more watches, particularly other Seikos, as well as some of my Hamilton collection, Steinhardt, Laco, Omega, and others. So I like to have a variety, but this Seiko is one that has already got a bit of a special place for me due to its uniqueness, its quality, and its boldness, to be frank. Fantastic value. Can't really go wrong. I highly recommend picking one of these up if you get the opportunity. Thank you, and until next time.